I want to quickly get to the RFK Jr. confirmation, which is riddled with political headwinds. Most of them come from the Democrats. I was watching a lot of it this morning. And the thing about the Republicans is that they do fall in line, and there is sort of a back rub quality to the Republican questioning, and through the confirmation process, the Democratic questioning really brings up those things that could be an issue even for some GOP senators. What's first, Tony? I forget what I had up first for you. This is his cousin, Caroline Kennedy, talking about RFK Jr., and it ain't for nothing that she is very intensely against him being part of this Trump administration. Go ahead, please.
I've known Bobby my whole life. We grew up together. It's no surprise that he keeps birds of prey as pets, because Bobby himself is a predator. He's always been charismatic, able to attract others through the strength of his personality, his willingness to take risks, and break the rules. I watch his younger brothers and cousins follow him down the path of drug addiction. His basement, his garage, his dorm room were always the center of the action, where drugs were available, and he enjoyed showing off how he put baby chickens and mice in a blender to feed to his hawks. It was often a perverse scene of despair and violence. Today, while he may encourage a younger generation to attend AA meetings, Bobby is addicted to attention and power. Bobby preys on the desperation of parents of sick children, vaccinating his own kids while building a following hypocritically discouraging other parents from vaccinating theirs. It's incomprehensible to me that someone who is willing to exploit their own painful family tragedies for publicity would be put in charge of America's life and death situations.
So that's a portion of what her video was, and it's quite impressive. It was and is something worth seeing. That's why we share a little bit of it with you.
You don't hear from her very often. She's very private. You know, I know she goes to charity events and things, but you don't hear her speak out like this. So she must have been incredibly inspired or horrified, you could say, to have to come out and make that statement.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, she risks a lot of reputational harm to herself. I mean, again, the Trump world is populated with those who are ready to exact vengeance on his behalf. Now to the hearings. What was our first video on the hearings, Tony? I'm forgetting. Yeah. Bennet from Colorado really runs down quickly the kind of laundry list of questions that may surround a bit of the RFK Jr. appointment. Go ahead, please, Tony.
Did you say that COVID-19 was a genetically engineered bioweapon that targets black and white people but spared Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people?
I didn't say it was deliberately targeted. I just quoted an NIH-funded and NIH published study.
Did you say that it targets black and white people but spared Ashkenazi Jews?
I quoted a study, Your Honor. I quoted an NIH study that showed that.
I'll take that as a yes. I have to move on, I have to move on. Did you say that Lyme disease is highly likely a materially engineered bioweapon? I made sure I put in the highly likely. Did you say Lyme disease is a highly likely militarily engineered bioweapon?
I probably did say that.
Did you say that?
And that's what the developer of
I
Lyme
want all
disease
of our
said.
colleagues to hear it, Mr. Kennedy. I want them to hear it. You said yes. Did you say that exposure to pesticides causes children to become transgender?
No, I never said that.
Okay, I have the record that I'll give to the chairman, and he can make his judgment about what you said. Did you write in your book, and it's undeniable, that African AIDS is an entirely different disease from Western AIDS? Yes or no, Mr. Kennedy?
I'm not sure if I made that.
Okay, I'll give it to the chairman, Mr. Kennedy. And my final question, did you say on a podcast, and I quote, "I wouldn't leave abortion, to the states. My belief is we should leave it to the woman. we shouldn't have the government involved, even if it's full term. Did you say that, Mr. Kennedy?
Senator, I believe that every abortion is a tragedy.
Did you say it, Mr. Kennedy? This
believe-
matters. It doesn't matter what you come here and say that isn't true, that's not reflective of what you really believe, that you haven't said over decade after decade after decade, because unlike other jobs we're confirming around this place, this is a job where it is life and death for the kids that I used to work for in the Denver public schools and for families all over this country that are suffering from living in the richest country of the world that can't deliver basic health care and basic mental health care to them. It's too important for the games that you're playing, Mr. Kennedy.
That's good, Tony. Thank you. I like that list because it covers both infectious disease, and then he gets to the abortion question, which could, again, involve some political headwinds for him with GOP senators. Now to two people who I think are outstanding politicians in this media environment, and I've talked to you about them before because I feel as though the Democrats need to find a way to communicate effectively. They need people who are good on television, who are good in social media particularly. They need Bernie Sanders type people, and Bernie Sanders was one of those who was questioning RFK Jr. today. We have that, Tony, if you would, please.
Okay. I'm going to pick up on a point that Senator Hassan made. Look, there is no question that abortion is a divisive issue in this country. I would say a majority of the people are pro-choice. There's a strong minority who are pro-life. A year and a half ago, you went to New Hampshire, running for president, gave a speech, and you talked about government should not tell a woman what she can do with her own body. That's her choice. Now, I think everybody on that side is pro-life. I think everybody here is pro-choice. I have never seen any major politician flip on that issue quite as quickly as you did when Trump asked you to become HHS secretary. Tell me why you think people should have confidence in your consistency and in your word when you really made a major U-turn on an issue of that importance in such a short time.
Senator, I believe, and I've always believed, that every abortion is a tragedy.
But you told the people in New Hampshire that it was their right. All right, let me do a last question here because I'm running out of time. I think the gist of what you were trying to say today is you're really pro-vaccine, you want to ask questions. You have started a group called the Children's Health Defense. You're the originator. Right now, as I understand it, on their website, they are selling what's called onesies. These are little things, clothing for babies. One of them is titled Unvaxxed, Unafraid. Next one, and they're sold for $26 a piece, by the way. Next one is No Vax, No Problem. Now, you're coming before this committee and you say you're pro-vaccine. Just want to ask some questions. And yet your organization is making money selling a child's product to parents for $26, which casts fundamental doubt on the usefulness of vaccines. Can you tell us now that you will, now that you are pro-vaccine, that you're going to have your organization take these products off the market?
Senator, I have no power over that organization. I'm not part of it. I resigned from the board.
Yeah, that was just a few months ago. You founded that. You certainly have power. You can make that call. Are you supportive of this?
I've had nothing to do with leadership.
Are you supportive of these onesies?
I'm supportive of vaccines.
Are you supportive of this clothing, which is militantly anti-vaccine?
I am supportive of vaccines. I will. I want good science, and I want to protect.
But you will not tell the organization you founded not to continue selling that product. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that is. I thought that was good. I mean, because even in the general sense, you understand these are senators who are bringing up his history, recent history, when it comes to these issues involving vaccines and infectious disease. And finally, about money. Elizabeth Warren, who I felt would have been terrific in the Oval Office, she created the Office of Consumer Affairs and Consumer Protections that has been dismantled by this administration. But she, I think, is a real advocate for the people. And again, she speaks in a way that across the fence style, if you will, gets the message through. Here she is talking about the money that RFK Jr. gets from this whole world of anti-vax and lawsuits, etc. Go ahead, please, Tony.
Count here of how, as Secretary of HHS, if you get confirmed, you could influence every one of those lawsuits. Well, let me start the list.
These
you
are
could
lawsuits he has
publish
out
your anti-vaccine conspiracies, but this
Vaccine
time
lawsuits.
on U.S. government letterhead, something a jury might be impressed by. You could appoint
I
people
don't
to the
understand that.
CDC vaccine panel who share your anti-vax views and let them do your dirty work. You could tell the CDC vaccine panel to remove a particular vaccine from the vaccine schedule. You could remove vaccines from special compensation programs, which would open up manufacturers to mass torts. You could make more injuries eligible for compensation, even if there is no causal evidence. You could change vaccine court processes to make it easier to bring junk lawsuits. You could turn over FDA data to your friends at the law firm, and they could use it however it benefited them. You could change vaccine labeling. You could change vaccine information rules. You could change which claims are compensated in the vaccine injury compensation program. There's a lot of ways that you can influence those future lawsuits and pending lawsuits while you are Secretary of HHS. And I'm asking you to commit right now that you will not take a financial stake in every one of those lawsuits so that what you do as Secretary will also benefit you financially down the line.
I'll comply with all the ethical guidelines.
That's not the question. You and I, you have said
You're asking me,
repeatedly,
Senator,
those
you're asking me not to
efforts
sue
are
vaccine pharmaceutical
I am
companies.
not. My
Yeah, you
question
are.
is stop
That's exactly what
enriching
you're doing.
health. Look, no one should be fooled here. As
fought that
Secretary
from-
of HHS, Robert Kennedy will have the power to undercut vaccines and vaccine manufacturing across our country. And for all of his talk about follow the science and his promise that he won't interfere with those of us who want to vaccinate his kids, the bottom line is the same. Kennedy can kill off access to vaccines and make millions of dollars while he does it. Kids might die, but Robert Kennedy can keep cashing in.
Senator, I support vaccines. I support the childhood schedule. I will do that. The only thing I want is good science, and that's it.
How about then say you won't make money off what you do as Secretary of HHS?
Before we go to
So there you go. I mean, he wouldn't pledge that. So if you care about the money part of it, there's the money part of it as well. It is true that somebody who is always playing the room reminds me a lot of the boss, Donald Trump, saying one thing to the room and then saying another thing to another room. But in the case of RFK Jr., he's really written on this. He's written books on it and all the rest. It may be very hard to shake that history. That's the latest on the RFK Jr. confirmation process. I see all the chat. Karen Cooper says lies, 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 lies. John Watson says all these guys promise things while they're sitting there in the hot seat, but as soon as they're sworn in, they do a 180. Of course, that's true. We've seen perhaps the highest profile example of that with the Supreme Court. And indeed, these are multiple versions of it as we continue to see these confirmation processes. How many of Trump's nominees have so far not been confirmed, says Nullifidian. Again, I predicted they would all get through. And that was, again, that was during the time when, you know, Gates never made it to even the confirmation process. And now that I've seen Hegseth get through, I really feel as though that now it's all going to be close. And because RFK Jr. comes from the Democratic side of the aisle, maybe it'll be tougher. We'll ask John Rothman. Tulsi Gabbard is also the tough one, but Patel is maybe just as dangerous. These are, I think, incompetent at best, but I'd suggest they are dangerous, incompetent appointments almost completely across the board, with just some notable exceptions.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.